They called it White Death. That's what the old-timers said about the Minnesota winter in 1896. It wasn't just the temperature, though 40 below zero freezes a man's breath inside his own throat. It was the silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing down on your eardrums, waiting for you to make a mistake. My name is Elias Brandt. Back then I was 22, broke, and desperate enough to take a contract at Blackpine Station. It was a remote logging camp, carved out of the deep woods near the Canadian border. The pay was good, the work was brutal. We were felling white pine, trees so wide it took 3 men to wrap their arms around the trunk. There were 14 of us in total, but my world revolved around my cutting crew. You need to know 2 of them to understand why I'm the only one speaking to you today. First, there was Thomas Hale. We called him the Bull. He was a skeptic, a loud man with hands the size of shovels and a laugh that could shake snow off the branches. He didn't believe in luck, he didn't believe in God, and he certainly didn't believe in the stories the locals told. He trusted steel and muscle. Then there was Raymond Burke. He was the veteran. He'd been logging since before the Civil War. He was quiet, the kind of man who moved through the woods without snapping a twig. He respected the forest. Maybe he feared it. Before we get into the dark, I need to ask you something. If you enjoy these dives into history's unexplained corners, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep the fire burning here. Now, back to the snow. It started with a warning. 3 days before the blizzard hit, a local trapper came through camp. He wasn't looking for trade, he was packing up his lines early. He looked at us, at our loud saws and our fires, and he shook his head. He walked right up to Thomas Hale and said, "You boys are too deep. The deer are moving south. The wolves are gone. When the food runs out in the woods, it wakes up." Thomas laughed. He spat tobacco in the snow and said, "Let it wake up. If it bleeds, we can kill it." The trapper didn't get angry. He just looked at Thomas with this pity. He said, "Don't whistle in the trees after sundown. And if you hear a friend calling your name from the dark, don't answer." Then he left. We should have gone with him. The storm hit on January 17th. It wasn't a normal snow. It was a wall of white. For 9 days, the wind didn't stop screaming. We were trapped in the bunkhouse. The supply wagons couldn't get through. The food stores started to thin out. By the 7th day, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and an argument just ended? The air felt static, charged. The forest outside went dead silent. The wind died down, but the birds didn't come back. The squirrels didn't move. I remember standing on the porch looking out at the tree line. The sun was setting, casting these long blue shadows. And I had this feeling, this distinct, primal sensation that the trees were looking back at me, not just watching, evaluating. Raymond came up beside me. He didn't look at me. He stared right at the dark edge of the woods. "Elias," he whispered, "go inside. Lock the heavy bolt." "Why?" I asked. "Because the woods are too quiet. Something scared the wolves away." The horror didn't start with a scream. It started with a mistake. We needed wood for the stove. We were burning through it fast to keep the frost off the walls. Samuel Crow, he was one of the younger guys, a good kid, drew the short straw. He geared up, grabbed a lantern, and went to the woodshed. It was maybe 30 yards from the bunkhouse. 30 yards, that's it. We heard the door to the shed squeak open. We heard him chopping wood for a few minutes. Then silence. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. "Samuel!" Thomas yelled from the porch. "Quit stalling and bring the wood!" Nothing. Just the wind picking up again. Raymond grabbed his rifle. Thomas, Elias, with me. We walked out into the snow. The cold hit us like a hammer. We followed Samuel's footprints to the shed. The lantern was there, sitting in the snow, still burning. The axe was buried in a log. But the footprints stopped. They didn't lead away. They didn't turn around. It looked like Samuel had just evaporated.
or been plucked straight up into the sky. "Samuel," I called out. And then we heard him. From the deep darkness, way past the tree line, a voice called back, "Help me." It was Samuel's voice, but it was wrong. You know how a phonograph sounds when it's winding down, the pitch drags? It sounded like that. "Help me, I am cold." Thomas, big brave Thomas, took a step forward. "Sam, we're coming! Keep yelling!" Raymond grabbed Thomas by the shoulder and slammed him back. "Stop! Get off me, old man, he's hurt!" "That ain't him," he hissed. His face was pale, eyes wide. "Listen to the cadence. Listen to the breaks." The voice came again. "I am hurt. Come out. Help. Elias. Help." It knew my name. But Raymond was right. It wasn't speaking with fear or pain. It was mimicking the sound of pain. It was a recording played by something that didn't understand what the words meant. Then the lantern light caught something at the edge of the clearing. Samuel stepped out from behind a pine tree. At least, my brain tried to tell me it was Samuel. It was wearing his coat. It was wearing his hat, but the proportions were all wrong. The arms, they were too long. They hung down past the knees, and the legs, they seemed to have an extra joint, bending in a way a man's leg shouldn't bend. The thing wearing Samuel's clothes took a step. It jerked like a marionette being pulled by an amateur puppeteer. It tilted its head back, way too far back, until it touched its spine and opened its mouth. "Help me." But the mouth didn't move with the words. The jaw just hung open, slack and wide, while the sound came from deep inside its chest. Thomas raised his lantern. "What in God's name is that?" The thing smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was just baring teeth, too many teeth. And then it moved. It didn't run. It scrabbled. It dropped to all fours and moved backward into the dark faster than a deer. Raymond didn't hesitate. He fired a shot into the dark. We didn't wait to see if he hit it. We ran. We scrambled back to the bunkhouse, bolted the door, and shoved the heavy oak table against it. We were 14 men with axes and rifles, but inside that cabin, we felt like children. We lit every lantern we had. We threw every scrap of wood into the stove until the iron glowed cherry red. We needed light. We needed heat, because we knew what was out there now. The Wendigo. The walking hunger. The locals had different names for it, but they all meant the same thing. Starvation. Made flesh. For the first hour, it just toyed with us. It circled the cabin. We could hear its footsteps crunching on the snow, heavy, deliberate steps. Then the mimicry started again. It wasn't just Samuel anymore. It was playing back conversations we'd had days ago. It mimicked Thomas's laugh. It mimicked the sound of my mother calling my name, a sound it must have pulled straight out of my nightmares because my mother had been dead for 5 years. "Let me in," it whispered. The voice shifted from a child's to an old man's in the middle of the sentence. "It's warm inside." "It's psychological," Raymond whispered, clutching his rifle. "It wants us to break. It feeds on fear just as much as meat. Don't listen to it." But Thomas was losing it. The big man was pacing, sweating, swinging his axe at the air. "I'm going out there," he muttered. "I'm going to chop its head off." "You go out there, you die," I said. Then the creature changed tactics. It stopped playing games. The roof. We heard the thud of something landing on the shingles above us. It was heavy. The wood groaned under the weight. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was looking for a way in. Suddenly, the stovepipe chimney rattled. Soot fell into the fire. It was trying to come down the flue. Thomas roared and swung his axe at the stove, denting the metal. "Come on, come and get it!" Crash! It wasn't the chimney. It was the back window. The creature was smart. It distracted us with the roof, then smashed the window behind us. The wind howled into the room, extinguishing 2 of the lanterns immediately. Shadows rushed in, and there it was. It unfolded itself through the window frame like a spider made of wet leather. Up close, it was hideous. Its skin was gray and pulled so tight against its bones you could see every rib, every vertebra. It smelled like copper and old earth. Its eyes were milky white, blind but seeing everything. Thomas charged it. He swung his axe with enough force to fell a tree. The blade connected with the creature's shoulder. It should have severed the arm. Instead, it made the sound like chopping into a wet sandbag. The axe stuck. The creature didn't even flinch. It looked at Thomas, tilted its head, and backhanded him. I saw a 200-pound man fly across the room like a rag doll.
The creature shrieked, a sound like metal tearing, and lunged for the next man. Bullets didn't stop it. They just passed through or got stuck in that gray, rubbery skin. It was tearing us apart. "Fire!" Raymond yelled. "Elias, the oil!" I grabbed a kerosene lantern from the hook. The creature had one of the sawyers by the throat, lifting him off the ground. I threw the lantern. It smashed against the creature's chest. The oil splashed and ignited instantly. The creature screamed. It wasn't a roar. It was a high-pitched tea-kettle shriek of panic. It dropped the man and recoiled, batting at the flames on its chest. The fire actually heard it. It was the only thing that did. It scrambled backward, hissing, and dove back out the broken window into the snow. We were left in the freezing dark, the only light coming from the burning oil on the floor. "We can't stay here," Raymond said. He was binding a wound on his arm. "It knows we're trapped. It'll come back and it won't be alone next time, or it'll wait until the fire dies." "Where do we go?" I asked. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my axe. "The river," Raymond said. "Hunter's cabin, 3 miles east. It's built of stone. We can fortify it." It was suicide to run in that storm, but staying was a death sentence. We gathered what oil we had left. We made torches. There were only 5 of us left standing. Thomas was gone, dragged out by the thing while we were fighting the fire. We opened the door and ran. Imagine running through waist-deep snow, in the dark, knowing something faster than you is hunting you. Every shadow looked like a monster. Every branch that snapped sounded like a bone breaking. We made it a mile. That's when the torches started to flicker in the wind. Then the voice came again, from everywhere. "Don't leave me." It was Thomas's voice this time. "It hurts. Elias, wait." I almost stopped. It sounded so real. "Keep moving," Raymond screamed. Then, from the trees above us, it dropped. It landed on the man behind me. No sound, just a rush of air and a sudden absence of footsteps. I didn't look back. I just ran. We could see the cabin. We were so close. But it was there, standing on the path. It had extinguished the fire on its chest, leaving a black, charred scar. It looked angry now. It stood to its full height, nearly 8 feet tall, blocking the way to safety. It opened its arms, mocking a welcoming embrace. "Come here." We froze. We had 1 torch left. Raymond looked at me. He had a look in his eyes I'll never forget. A calm, sad acceptance. "Get to the cabin, kid," he said. "Raymond, don't run!" Raymond didn't attack the creature. He did something smarter. He reached into his coat and pulled out a stick of dynamite, mining charges we used for clearing rock. He lit the fuse with the last torch. The creature saw the spark. It hesitated. It knew what fire was now. Raymond charged it, screaming at the top of his lungs. He tackled the thing, or tried to. He threw his arms around that skeletal waist. The creature bit down into his shoulder, tearing him apart, but Raymond held on. I dove behind a fallen log just as the world turned white. The explosion shook the snow off the trees for a mile. Dirt, snow, and black blood rained down. I don't remember getting into the stone cabin. I must have crawled. I stayed there for 3 days, shivering, listening to the wind. I kept waiting for the scratching on the door. I kept waiting for Raymond's voice to ask to be let in. But the silence returned. When the relief team finally broke through the drifts and found me, I was half dead from frostbite. They asked me what happened. I told them. I told them about Samuel, about the mimicry, about the creature that wouldn't die. They looked at each other. They wrote down wolf attack and hypothermia-induced delirium in their notebooks. They went back to the main camp. They found the smashed window. They found the axe buried in the wall. But they didn't find any bodies. Not Thomas, not Samuel, not Raymond. Just drag marks, deep furrows in the snow leading off into the deepest part of the woods, and claw marks on the trees 10 feet off the ground. They closed Blackpine Station a year later, said it was economically unviable. But I know the truth. No one would work there, because even now, over 100 years later, hunters who go into those woods say the same thing. The birds don't sing in that valley. And sometimes, when the wind dies down, you can hear a voice calling from the tree line. It sounds like your friend. It sounds like your brother. It sounds like someone you love begging for help. If you ever find yourself in the deep woods of Minnesota and you hear that call, don't be a hero. Don't look back. Because the hunger never sleeps. It just waits.